I first had this idea in like 2017, and fair warning, it is a very silly idea. So the idea is that it's like the pokerap, but with toki pona words instead of Pokemon. You know, the tokirap. And there's a very good chance that you're unfamiliar with at least one of those things. Please bear with me. The pokerap is a song created for the 4Kids dub of the Pokemon anime, with lyrics that are, for the most part, just a list of every single first-generation Pokemon. And Toki Pona is a minimalist constructed language that I've talked about quite a lot on this channel. I'm making this video as part of a celebration of the 20-year anniversary of when Toki Pona was first published online, which was on August 8th, 2001. I figured that this is the perfect opportunity to finally do something with this very silly idea that I've been sitting on for so many years. I don't want to just show the song, though. I also wanted to present my process in writing it, as an homage to a certain row of a consonant inventory table. First of all, why? Why would you want to make a parody of the pokerap where instead of listing Pokemon, it's listing words in a constructed language? Well, the main reason is that the names sound vaguely similar, so it makes for a good pun. The secondary reason is that listing things in song form just happens to be a good way to memorize things in general. Criticized the pokerap for its educational rap flow, saying that it sounds more like an educational song than actual rap. So why not repurpose it into something that actually is educational? The tokirap could, in theory, be helpful for people who want to memorize Toki Pona's vocabulary. I am not the first to do something like this for Toki Pona. Kalama Nimi Pi Toki Pona is a song inspired by Tom Lehrer's Elements, listing Toki Pona words to the tune of Modern Major General. I went out of my way to make sure this tokirap is sufficiently different from Kalama Nimi Pi Toki Pona, and I definitely recommend checking it out if you haven't heard it before. So then, let's get into the process. The first problem to deal with is the question of exactly what words to include. Well, this would have been a bigger question if I were doing this at pretty much any point in the past. Like, there's the 120 canon Nimi Poo, but there's also a lot of pretty important words that aren't part of that set. So I'd need to either not have any of those, or pick and choose which ones to put in the song. But luckily for me, the first official Toki Pona dictionary was recently released. So I'll be using the 137 Nimi Kusuli as the set of words to use for the tokirap. This leads to a secondary problem. The general flow of the pokerap, which I want to preserve, is structured in pairs of lines that have 4 Pokemon each, and you can only really do that if the number of things you're listing is a multiple of 8. That's why the pokerap ends awkwardly with "that's all folks," because the 150 Pokemon included is 2 fewer than a multiple of 8. 137 is going to cause the opposite problem. It's exactly 1 more than a multiple of 8. To solve this, one line somewhere in the song is going to need to have 1 extra word compared to all the others. Fortunately, Toki Pona has a lot of single-syllable words, so it shouldn't be too hard to get this to work. Great, so now all I need to do is get these 137 words and arrange them into 17 rhyming pairs of lines. Toki Pona has more than enough rhyming pairs for this to work, so this should be easy, right? So easy that I was able to write up a program to randomly generate tokirap lyrics. Well, I don't want the order to literally just be random. Ideally, the lyrics should actually be memorable. Like, if someone hypothetically were to decide to memorize this song to help them remember Toki Pona vocabulary, it would be helpful for them if the words were in an order that actually made sense. So that's one extra goal that makes it a little harder. The other is that I want it to, sound decent. I am absolutely not a rapper, and this is an educational song parody of the pokerap, so it's not going to sound cool, but there are some things I want to avoid. One major one is having any of the rhyming pairs I use be single-syllable words. In my opinion, something like rhyming yan with tan just doesn't sound that good, and I'd prefer if every single rhyming pair in the song is more than just 1 syllable. Now, this means that there's no longer enough perfect rhyming pairs in the language to do the whole song, but there's still a lot of near rhymes that will work just fine. So something like pakala kalama is preferable to yan tan. Also, the original pokerap's rhymes are pretty rough anyway, so at the very least, there's a precedent for not caring that much about having the rhymes actually be rhymes. Great, so with those general guidelines, I'm now ready to actually turn this list of words into the tokirap. My first idea was to organize the lyrics phonetically, so similar sounding words would be grouped together. This is what Kalama Nimi Pi Toki Pona does, and it worked pretty well for that song. It's not exactly the same though. Kalama Nimi Pi Toki Pona's lyrics mostly use alliteration, but what I did was organize words by their rhymes, which is the opposite of alliteration. Although one thing I did just copy directly from Kalama Nimi Pi Toki Pona was having the very last word be kiete santakalu. It really just doesn't fit anywhere else. Anyway, these lyrics kinda work, and if I were actually a rapper, I'd probably be able to make them sound good, but there's still some things that I'm not happy with. There's a lot of parts in here where there's 3 one-syllable words in a row, which makes those parts feel really slow and boring. I'd like to have those words be spread out more throughout the whole song. Another thing is that this completely ignores, everything about these words other than what they sound like. So even if I iterated this method and got lyrics that I was completely satisfied with aesthetically, it would still feel like a random order, one that just happens to sound nice. So I tried another approach. My next idea was to have the words organized roughly by frequency, starting with really common basic words and getting to less common words as the song goes on. Honestly, this turned out even worse. This was not a very good idea. Not only do the resulting lyrics not sound very good, but altering the frequency data to fit the structure of the song means that this isn't even representative of how frequent these words really are. While I do like having basic grammatical particles towards the start of the song and more obscure nini pipuala towards the end, it doesn't work to use frequency alone to determine the order of the song. Another problem I realized is that words mean things. Like right at the start, I somehow ended up putting pona next to utala, just because I was paying more attention to the overall structure than the actual order of the words. And like, I could go through and manually rework any individual parts that don't work very well, but in the end I decided to just do yet another pass from scratch. This time I went through and sorted the words mostly by meaning, and I'm not showing you the order that came from doing that because that's exactly what I ended up actually using in the final song that you're going to hear at the end of this video. I couldn't get everything sorted entirely by meaning, but for any leftovers that didn't fit neatly into a set of 4 similar words, I used one of the 2 other methods to figure out where to place them, and generally went with just whatever I thought sounded better. So cool, I now have everything I need to perform the tokirap. Wait, hold on, the pokerap isn't literally just a list of Pokemon. There's other parts to it too. What do I do for the verses? The pokerap contextualizes its list of Pokemon by chanting the tagline, "Gotta catch 'em all," at various points throughout the song. Like, that's why we're listing all of these Pokemon, because these are the all that you gotta catch. So pretty much every parody of the pokerap that lists something other than Pokemon needs to come up with some sort of equivalent of that. What is it that we're doing to all of these Tokipona words that makes it make sense to list all of them? Well, the actual answer is that you're memorizing all of them so that you can learn the language. And honestly, the idea of coming up with some variant of gotta catch 'em all that refers to the act of memorizing a list of words in a constructed language is so unbearably dorky. Like, what would you do? Gotta learn 'em all? Ugh, it makes me want to push myself into a locker for even thinking of the idea. And like, that's pretty much unavoidable. This is an inherently dorky idea. I am a massive dweeb for wanting to do something like this, but what I could do is obfuscate the dorkiness a little bit. If the verses are written in Tokipona, then the only people who will know that I'm singing about learning this conlang will be people who themselves can speak said conlang. And really, that makes them the dweebs. That way, I won't get pushed into a locker for making this, I'll be pulled into the locker instead. And that pretty much covers my thought process writing the tokirap. However, there is still the matter of turning it into an actual song. I could just use the instrumental for the original pokerap and rap over that, but since there's fewer Nimi Kusuli than Gen 1 Pokemon, I'd need to mess around with it to make it actually work. Also, like, if hypothetically someone wanted to learn this song, which is definitely a major part of what this song is, it would be nice to have a dedicated instrumental for the tokirap that isn't literally just the pokerap. So to help me out with that, I got my friend Sapa to do the actual mixing for this track. You might know them from Bopgil, their remix of the Votgil episode of Conlang Critic. And since this is a pretty big aspect of the way the final song sounds, I'll let them explain it to you themselves. Take it away, Sapa.
Thanks, Jan Misali. Hey everyone, it's Sapa here, the producer behind this track, and I just wanted to get into a little bit of how it was made. So without spoiling too much of it, Jan Misali basically sent me a collection of vocals that I built the track around, which isn't how I usually work, so it was pretty interesting. It has kind of an atypical structure, you could say, but I started with the backing beat, laid down a simple but very prominent bass line, in true Tokipona fashion, and I let the melody and everything else kind of build out from there. In between, I spiced up the track with a bunch of little details and vocal splicing that I thought might give it some extra flavor. But, I'll let you hear it for yourself. And one last thing, I actually just released my debut album, so if you like what you're about to hear, check out Clavinetic on whatever streaming service you prefer. Well, without further ado, here's the song.
Toki, ni la mi toki musi e ni mi ale pi toki pona. Sina ken kute taso, mi pali e io suli. Io open, io open, io open. Yami wile awin, sone e ni mi la ona li wile kute e musi ni. Mi sina ni ona olin musi sui pona li e la pio anu en seme io. Toki ni li io anemini. Toki pona nili nasi nasa pikama sona taso ona li pali la ale li pona kule lukin kalamakute ala 1 2 mute sowili akasi pipi waso kala loye yelo laso toki nili yuanimini nili ale lon toki pona utala pakala ike nena lupa leko sike long time kepiken tawa luka noka cielo lawa o kamasona ah o kamasona e nimi ale lon toki pona su super linea insa celo koki wen con telo sewi ampa nila mi tue nasin. Taso musili pini ala, mio awen, mio poka nasi, kulupu poki, sitilan nimi lipu toki, leti seli suli lili, kasi pan boku, nini ale mute luka tuta sola. Yan ale liken lon kulupu pitoki pona. Nasa ante yasima sama, lape tomo pali mama, ma suno mun palisa, ilo nampa sona alasa. Pona a, omoku e kon, nimi mute taso ligama, okute pona. Kama open awen pini, wile esun mani kipisi, pana yo lampan timpo, weka yaki ale meso, pili uta umpa oko, ken sin namako soko. Okamasona, okamasona, nimi ale lon toki pona. Taso walo pimia, wawa a, unsuta, kin, mizikeka epiku, kokosila puku, kieta santakalu.